Speak Easy Studios. Speak and be heard.
Yo, this is Stephen Lee.
And I'm Frank Jackson.
And we are the Distinguished Critics. We're here to break down some of our favorite albums and songs and debate what's overrated, underrated, and everything in between. So join us as we go back and relive some of music's most iconic projects. Give us a listen wherever you get your podcasts, and please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and give us those 5 stars. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Big Short. I'm Stephen Lee, as always, joined by Frank Jackson, and today we're going to be discussing 2 very East Coast-feeling hip-hop singles that ruled the airwaves in 2005. We're talking about Camron's Down and Out from his 4th LP, Purple Haze, and The Game's Hate It or Love It featuring 50 Cent from his first LP, The Documentary. Frank, how you doing today, man?
Good. I wish I would have worn my G-Unit tank top to this.
With the spaghetti strap shit?
Yeah, well, don't be disrespectful. This is high fashion.
Okay.
But, this is, I'm actually really excited for this one. I love talking about 50 Cent. Like, I could just make it the
50 Cent show?
Yeah, we should just rebrand.
We should call it This Is 50.
Oh, yeah.
That's original,
That
right?
would be incredibly clever of us to do.
There we go.
I'm sure there would be no litigation involved with that.
There you go.
So,
Continue on. My bad.
So, all right. Let's start with Hate It or Love It.
Mm-hmm.
So, with Hate It or Love It, you have, first of all, it can't be understated. 50 Cent's just ability to bring out artists and, I mean, really just put them on a stage to succeed. Whether or not they do something with it or not is entirely up to them.
Right.
Like, he kind of is one, like, I'm going to lead you to the water. I can't force you to drink.
It's up for you to drink it, yeah.
Right. So, the game was G-Unit's, West Coast kind of proxy. He was, and let's just say it off the bat, the Game is a better rapper than anybody not named Banks.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that.
Well,
yeah.
But when Game is at his strongest, I'm taking him over even Banks. We can argue about that another time.
We will.
But, this song was just absolutely massive. It was so unique in its sound. It wasn't something that was just kind of like it wasn't captured in that time. Like, everything was sounding like this, and then
shout out to Cool and Dre real quick, because their production does have a kind of a, I don't want to say transcendent, but I can't point to any one of their beats and say, well, it sounds stale.
Cool and Dre never get talked about,
right?
And I think that's criminal.
I'm sorry, but I had to give them their flowers, because I feel like for this to work and for you to mention it in that breath, like, you got to acknowledge that the production is that.
They make stuff that's gonna last, right? Like, we listened to Hate It or Love It yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things, and 50 and Game showed early on, like, if we get together on something, it's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm.
Because we also recently talked about this. One thing that's super underrated, regardless of how you feel about 50, in any way, his pen is super strong, and it always has been, right? Like, 50,
if not for a 16. The hook craftsmanship, I feel like just as a pure writer, 50 can still structure a hook better than anybody in the game.
Yeah, 50 kind of has just this knack of knowing, like, what the people want to hear.
Right.
Or at least at the time had this knack of knowing what the people want to hear.
Or if he gets a beat, then he knows how to maximize that production.
Yes.
Right.
So this song was kind of everyone's introduction to the Game in a way, like on a broader scale.
Yeah.
On a broader scale.
How we do, but yes, it was all around this general time
It was
period,
around, it was all around the same time period. This was, he kind of, like I said about 50, right? Like, he's going to push it out there and force feed it to you, but you're going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Game was starting to just kind of blow up really fast because that's what G-Unit did at the time. Like, if you are associated with this thing, you're going to blow up. I think this song was just it's kind of like I spot a flaw. I don't really see one. You know, like the only thing that I think you could say about this song is just if you heard it too many times. It's one of those things
but that's
where
not
it just
it,
becomes
that's not
like
its
that's
fault.
not a knock on the song.
Right.
If anything, that's because it's so good, you heard it so many times, and maybe you might not want to listen to it now. I don't agree with that because I'll always listen to it. But I just think this was such a different and feel good single, even though like the content wasn't feel good.
But it's
it just was a feel good
the
single.
vibe.
It just felt like
their
it.
energy on the record. And
Right.
the thing with me for Game is, again, I think that he's a great rapper. The guy he's got a little bit better with this, but especially at this juncture early on in his career, could not write a chorus to save his goddamn life.
Yeah.
And I think that, when 50 talks about, well, I wrote 6 songs on this album, I think it's readily apparent that he was never lying about that.
Yeah.
The hook is very
And that's why
clearly
I mentioned 50's pen.
right. The hook is very clearly a 50 Cent penned hook. And I again, got to give credit to 50 because if he's on top of the world and he wants to roll out his roster, and certainly if you got Dre on the boards, don't you want to add a West Coast component to this modern day NWA, which is kind of how they were trying to push G-Unit at the time? You have 50 Cent from Queens, Lloyd Banks from Southside Queens as well. You got Buck from Tennessee. Okay, let's get this West Coast element. And I'm not saying that Game ever failed in that regard, but like I do believe that he would have never been where he is if he didn't have this type of song. And really 50's, like, I think this is emblematic of what 50 did for his career, because
Game would never admit it, but he's nowhere close to this
50,
without 50.
that 50 cosign and Game can hop on a song like this and he's not going to hold it back. I mean, he might even have the best verse or whatever, but like none of this is possible without 50. So it is one of those records where even though it's on Game's album, I view it more as like, man, this is a great 50 Cent song,
50 Cent
you know?
song.
And it's so funny because by the time they did this video, this was not the first or second single. There were already problems between the two.
Yep.
So much so that you'll notice one is in the front seat of the car and the other's in the back seat of the car in the video because they literally could not stand to even sit next to each other. This was a pure obligation at this point. Let's get it over because they both knew that, hey, this is a big record. We need to push this. But the friction was already there.
Yeah. And look, 50 did not need, because let me just say this about the song. Even though Game, when he's actually trying, and that is an important qualifier because, man, how frustrating is it to be a Game fan? Like,
I had shirts back in the day. I've been following Game for the better part of 18 years.
It can be here and then all the way down here for years and
Right.
years and years. And
Right.
and he, he's always on some other shit. But when the dude is like really, really trying and really on his game, there are very few people who can fuck with him as an MC.
Fair.
Like, Game is excellent. And I mean, he just recently released Drillmatic Heart vs. Mind. That's his best album, in my opinion, to date. We'll talk about that another time.
Right.
But I just think 50 did not even – 50 knows what – since day one, 50 knows what makes money, right? This was going to be the most lucrative thing for him, to have Game
even
on
more than
this,
Banks
because it was going to bring coasts
Buck.
together.
Yeah.
Each coast had their person.
And the West was slouching at this time. Again, no offense to a lot of them guys out there, but like the West needed a new guy.
They needed this. So this was going to be lucrative, but 50 Cent did not have to put Game on this, and he was better than Game on this. Like, which is kind of goes to what I was talking about, right? Like, Game might be great, but he's not consistently great. And 50, I think, heavily outshined him on this song.
I think 50's second album suffered because he gave so much of this to the Game. Like, not to get on the Massacre versus the documentary, but like, I do think
we can do a whole episode about that another time.
Okay, so let's get to Camron though, because Camron is an artist that I feel like you either love this guy or you cannot fucking stand him. It's computers, putin, booty, dootin', doo-doo-doo, or you really respect what he did for the Game. And he did do a lot for the Game, right? We're talking about the mixtape era and what 50 and Wayne were able to do. Well, that Diplomat movement was very large at the time. It influenced not only the sound of hip-hop, but like the fashion, all of that. And this album that this song Down and Out came out on, Purple Haze, was kind of viewed as like the high point of Cam's career. You know?
I kind of separate the two. Let me start by saying this about Down and Out. Camron played just a dirty trick on us by having Kanye at the beginning. And I thought he was gonna be rapping on it, and he did a chorus, and I kept listening. And you get to the end of the song, and you realize Kanye was never gonna rap on this. It's just a dirty trick that Camron played, and
Kanye
fucking
played
evil.
a dirty trick on us too, because I thought this was a
Put on-
Kanye beat. No,
I mean, no, not put on. I remember thinking that on Can't Tell Me Nothing, because it said like featuring Young Jeezy, and all he did, I'm serious, nigga. I got money.
Yeah,
he just did that.
You're talking about him just like a little ad lib
his
spot or
little
whatever.
ad-libs.
Well, I thought Kanye produced this song for years.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and he did not.
That too. No,
I mean, doesn't
yeah.
it sound like
this sounds like Kanye production, like to a T.
especially from that time period. It's just like, oh, that's like, if you heard it and you didn't even know he was doing the hook or whatever. Let's just say he did an intro. Let's say he's not even on the song. You'd be like, oh, that's a Kanye.
Yeah,
beat,
Kanye produced it. No, but it's still this is one of the first and only Camron songs that I love. Like I'm not a fan of like the Rudy Tooty.
Yeah.
You know, that fucking stupid. I don't like his flow. I never have liked his flow. I'm not a Camron fan. I don't care who gets mad at me
I think
about
Cam
that.
has
like, you don't have
bars,
to pretend
but-
he's something that he's not. Cam has an incredibly strong pen.
In terms of
he always has
syllabalistic rhyming and everything rhyming to a T, but it's just his delivery and how much he has dumbed shit down.
Yeah,
that has always annoyed me.
Cam has always had a really strong pen, and Cam was one of those dudes where when he was,
you know, he wrote "Crush on You" with Lil C's.
So I was gonna say before Cam, he was one of those dudes where before he ever blew up, he was out here writing hits for other people.
He was Biggie's new favorite rapper. Biggie did
he was
not
a
even,
lot of people's like New York kind of had their eye on Camron as like, that's the guy right there.
Right.
Like he's gonna be the one that's gonna come and take this shit over.
Until he
That's
dropped
who I
that
need to look
Confessions
out
of
for.
Fire bullshit, and then it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe he's not the guy, you know?
I don't know what it is. I do not know what it is with Camron, because
We're going off on a whole tangent
it's one of the,
right now.
no,
We're just
but you
airing
know
out our
what? No,
Camron
this
grievances.
Is fine. This is fine. I want to stay here for a minute, because it's like that. It's like if you see some receiver in football, he's 6'4", he runs a 4.2 40, like.
Oh, so Cam is Dorial
crazy.
Green Beckham is what you're telling me.
He's Dorial Green Beckham.
There it is, yeah.
It's like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Why are you not putting together just a string of 100-yard games?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with Cam, but for some reason, like he chose to have this sort of flow and delivery that is, man, that shit is only palatable to like
diehards. And there are a lot of them out there.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Now, I was saying I separate the two, right? Because, all right, that's how I feel about Camron.
We're talking about this song.
But not just that, the Diplomats thing that you mentioned,
right?
Massive. And so many good songs came out of that era.
For sure.
Because that's when Wayne was teaming up with them and, you know, and Joel's. And I used to fuck with Joel's. I always did like Joel's.
Yep.
So that movement, he is responsible for a movement that I did enjoy when at the time, you know. It hasn't aged incredibly well to me, but at that time, I really did like it. So I can separate the two. Like individually, Camron not the greatest to me, but the Diplomat movement, that was pretty damn great. This song in particular, I think Cam was really good on this song.
He was.
This didn't sound ridiculous to me. This didn't sound like some weird drug dealing Dr. Seuss that was on lean or some shit.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It was like
Dr. Seuss, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Yeah.
I don't, you know, but he sounded a lot better on this to me.
Right.
And this was one of my favorite songs of the time.
It was a big song, man.
It was.
It was huge, and I remember Cam. Now, Cam does have some. And I know it sounds like we're just shitting all over him, but he had some records that I did thoroughly enjoy. Hey Ma being one of them with that Lionel Richie sample, like just a perfect record. So he's not incapable of making good music, but I do feel like for every good song that he has, there's probably like 9 or 10 that I'm just never going to enjoy. And this is one of those ones where I'm amazed it wasn't the first single off of this album. I think it was like the 4th or 5th single that they put out. And it's like, no, this was the one. Mixtapes were popping around this time. Like, how many artists hopped on this beat? Game got on it to diss G-Unit that same year. So, like, yes, the production is there, even though it's by not Kanye. It's Brian All Day Miller, which sounds like a creative player from some fucking AM1 PS2 game back in the day.
I feel like Kanye used that as a alter ego.
Like a pseudonym or something.
Yeah,
but it sounds like a Kanye record. Kanye does offer enough to where it's like, okay, there's his contribution to it. And if you're going to get nothing but Cam actually rapping, I do think Camron held his own here.
Agreed.
You know, so where do you fall then? I love how we just, you know, Dipset's whack, this, that, was for 7 minutes, and then it's like, no, but this is a good record. Where are we going?
It is a good record. It is a good record.
This is the extent of our Cameron love for the most part. We'll do one of those albums one day, I guess.
It's a good record, but when I include everything, and that includes video, I Hate It or Love It is where I'm going to go. Not extremely easily go that direction, but I would say it sort of handily wins.
Okay. So I'll give Cam, again, credit and say that this is one of the better pure hip-hop feel-good singles of the mid-2000s. And I think where I differentiate is that Hate It or Love It over the course of the past 18 or 19 years has proven to be really one of the better hip-hop singles of all time. Like, I know certain people probably don't want to hear that. Oh, how are you going to compare it to, you know, whatever came out in 97 or 94 or whatever? But you cannot dispute that this record was huge at the time. You're still going to hear it, and it's still that good of a song.
Agreed.
You know, so we'll both go with Hate It or Love It. Until then, let us know what you think in the comments. Sorry for all the Cameron hate, but this is how we feel. And God damn it,
sorry for
it's our podcast. So scream at us, curse at us in the
comments. Go watch
Paid
in Full, fucking eat a snack,
go.
Take a nap.
Shout out to Mekhi Phifer, and until next week, peace.
Thanks for giving us a listen. Give us your feedback and let us know how you really feel. Subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you next week.